everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Solid topic, let's do it. What's the most unsettling dream you've ever had? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I have lucid dreams pretty often, and I have one really unsettling recurring dream character. Almost immediately when I realize that I'm dreaming, I notice this dark silhouette of a person staring at me, making a really angry face. I mean, seriously angry. Like his mouth is wide open in a silent scream, and he has these messed up pointy teeth sticking out. He's not usually very close. Most of the time I see him off in the distance, but I can tell it's him. I never interact with him either, and he's not all that scary while I'm dreaming. It only seems weird when I think about it while awake, but I'm always aware that he's watching me during the dream, and sometimes I still have that feeling after I wake up. So most of the time that I dream, I have nightmares, and twisted ones too. There are a few that have stuck with me through the years because they've been so disturbing to me. Here's one. I was walking through my house and something wasn't right. There was a stranger in my house and I didn't know where they were. It was just me and my brother in the house, so I made the decision to get him and myself out of the house. The door to leave was across my kitchen, which was kept dark except for a strip of light where the door was opened. As I begin walking, my brother freezes and won't move. When I look at him, he's staring into the darkness with the most horrified look on his face, and then I hear it. The sound of fingernails going down a zipper. The sound sends a chill down my spine, but I need to see what it is. I turn my head, and there is the intruder skinning someone. I shield my brother and I can't look away, and slowly the intruder stops doing what he's doing and looks right at me, and then I woke up. I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but it was pretty damn unsettling to me. I've been having recurring dreams since my late adolescence where my teeth fall out or rot out, and they are extremely vivid, and I can taste blood in my mouth for the first 30 seconds or so after I wake up. When I was a kid, I had an abstract, feverish dream, which is hard to explain, but I basically dreamt of infinity. I was enveloped in something infinitely small and infinitely big at the same time, and it was terrifying. Woke up and felt physically ill. I had a dream that I was in love with this girl, and that we had this long, awesome relationship. She was beautiful, I was happy, etc. It was fantastic. 2 days later, I started a new job that I had never been to, and I met that exact girl. She looked exactly like the girl from my dream. I had a weird moment of, holy shit, did I just dream the future? And then I started talking to her and found out that she was a huge bitch, so no. Not my dream, but my girlfriend's. She was having a wonderful day with me, but then I suddenly got sick, like terminally ill and bedridden, too weak to move, too sick to laugh, too much pain to even respond to her. She was trying to feed me blueberries and I couldn't even manage that. I couldn't chew or swallow, but I was still alive, and it felt like it went on for weeks. Nobody knew what it was. I wasn't getting any better, and no one could help me, especially her. I couldn't even eat blueberries. They would just fall out of my mouth when she fed them to me. She knew I was in so much pain, but she was powerless. She woke up so incredibly sad that it took an hour to comfort her and assure her that we're perfectly healthy and something like that couldn't happen to us. Needless to say, I was so shaken about thinking like something like that, it was a genuine nightmare. I think she hasn't eaten blueberries in a long time because it reminds her of that dream. The other day I dreamt I was Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan, and I was bad at being him. My grappling hook failed all the time and I kept announcing, "I'm Batman," when jumping into groups of criminals, which isn't really very Batman-like, only to get beaten up badly every time. It was really depressing. My brother had this, but it was so freaky I actually dreamt a version of it. No joke. I'm at a party and I need to pee. I ask where the bathroom is and someone tells me it's in the attic, which is furnished. Just go up to the stairs. But watch out, Jimmy's up there and he just died. We're trying to figure out what to do, but obviously he won't bother you, so I walk upstairs and the only bulb in the attic is red. Everything is awash with red. I look across the room, a sofa facing to my right, and right beyond is the bathroom. Jimmy is sitting on the sofa with his head back as if sleeping. I stand at the top of the stairs for an eternity because I'm not sure what to do. I walk slowly, heart beating in my throat, blood rushing to my head. I clumsily step over Jimmy's legs, trying not to touch him. I get to the bathroom and look back. He's sitting on the sofa, head back as if sleeping. While I'm peeing, I reach my head back to check on Jimmy. He's definitely dead. I finish up, wash my hands, and look up in the mirror. I noticed how different I look in the red light. Younger. Even though I'm in my 30s, I look like a teenager. I dry my hands and move to go downstairs. He's looking at me with white eyes. Jimmy's head is now lazily facing me, and he's looking right at me, as if he's going to answer a question I have. The rest of his body is the same position except for his head. How did he move his head? Why are the center of his eyes white? What did I do? I just needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't mean to. He's shifting his body. He's moving, trying to get up. How do I escape? How do I get by him without him grabbing me? Are his hands cold? Is he strong enough to hold on to me? My God, he's standing up. He's making an excited sucking noise. The noise something makes when it's going to get what it wants. Where do I go? He's dragging himself, sliding, falling towards me. What do I do? Oh, here we go. I have this dream about the same time nearly once every year. I'm in this completely white room with no windows or doors. I'm just sitting there, confused. Suddenly, this woman wearing all blue with really long fingernails, like the Guinness Book of World Records long, appears. She starts to run her fingernails along my face and says, "It's time again, my dear." Don't really want to get into the details, but she basically starts molesting me. I sit there and take it. No words, no facial expressions, just sitting there. When she's finally done, she pats my head, says, "Good girl," and then she disappears. And I just see myself sitting there naked in the white room like nothing happened. Then I wake up. I've been having a reoccurring nightmare the past week. It's always me in my house and having to get something from my grandma's basement. Don't ask me how this makes sense, it's a dream. I'm in my house, but it's my grandma's basement instead of mine. When I go down there, it's extremely dark, and there's always a section that remains black no matter what kind of light I use. This black area is, of course, in a corner, and in the corner, all I can make out is what appears to be the shape of a little girl's head with unkempt long hair that seems to cover the thing's head. Well, I usually stop when I notice it in my dream, and I'll suddenly feel this intense fear, the kind that makes you just freeze up when you can feel pure evil looking at you. As I stand there, the thing slowly looks over at me, and the feeling gets worse. As soon as it moves to get me, I wake up right before it enters the light, and I can see what it is. I have had several variations of this nightmare, usually ending in that basement, but some are me sitting on the living room couch with my significant other watching a movie in the dark, and suddenly she's yanked out of my hands and dragged screaming into the basement. I sometimes rush after her, only to be dragged down there myself. Sometimes I cower in fear until I look up and see what appears to be my SO lying on the floor near the basement stairs. When I work up the courage to call out, or finally get up to move toward her, it turns out it's not her, but the thing waiting for me. There are other times when I manage to grab her before it pulls her away from the couch. When I do manage to grab her, I can see the thing's outline and hear it snarl, but when it jumps at me, I always wake up before I see what it is. These dreams have been happening for a little over a week, and I always wake up and feel an intense fear that makes me unable to move. The worst part is I usually wake up around 3 when it's still dark and am forced to sit there in the dark afraid that something is about to grab me and pull me downstairs. It usually takes a while to fall asleep again, and I wake up feeling awful and tired. It's gotten to the point where when the sun goes down, I will usually walk as far away from the basement stairs as possible when I go to room in the dining room, into the kitchen. When I'm up late in the living room, which is in view of the stairs leading to the basement, I'm always terrified. I'll look up and see something either racing at me or a darkness slowly creeping into the light. I even have this feeling at my SO's house when we're alone in the dark and she falls asleep. It's kind of dumb because I'm 6'3", 200-pound guy who works out all the time, and now I'm scared of basements. Sorry for all of the texts. The most horrifying dream I've ever had was when I was around 8 years old. It started with me sitting in my minivan behind the driver's seat. I had the feeling that I was supposed to be headed to school. The car wasn't moving though, so I took a look in the driver's seat. It wasn't my mom sitting there, but a jack-in-the-box. It started playing on its own, and about a second before it was supposed to pop out, it sprung open and Elmo from Sesame Street came from the inside. At this point, I wasn't really that frightened, but I did feel strange about the whole situation. I asked Elmo where my mom was, and he told me I'd be joining her soon, and he began to laugh his high-pitched laugh. He told me to buckle up, and the seatbelt wrapped itself around me. Elmo threw the van in reverse and slammed on the gas. We flew backwards toward my neighbor's house across the street, all the while I was yelling at him to slow down. We eventually hit the neighbor's house, and I was thrown out of the car. I woke up, not from the dream, and I noticed I couldn't move. I looked down and saw that both my legs were broken from the crash. I started crawling away from the wreckage, only using my arms. Suddenly, a huge orange bird foot stepped on one of my hands. It was Big Bird. I looked up, and I saw the rest of the Sesame Street gang. I asked Big Bird for his help, and I told him I couldn't walk. He laughed and told me that I didn't need to walk anymore. I asked him why, and he told me it was because he needed me to be still. Then, to my horror, he brought down a baseball bat on my arm. He broke both of them. All the while, all the Sesame is laughing at me. Then came the worst part. They all came closer, and as I was crying, when Oscar came out of his trash can and brought a chainsaw down on my stomach, I saw my organs come out of my body, and the Cookie Monster got down next to me and started stuffing my intestines into his mouth. I couldn't move. I was feeling weaker and weaker. My blood pooled around me. I asked them all why I was throw up on my own blood, and they told me this is the way it has to be. At this point, I got to the stage of dreaming where I started to wake up, but dream activities were still going on. I felt myself start to leave the dream, and as I was almost awake, I heard Elmo call out to me, "We'll be back." I woke up sweating and terrified. I haven't watched Sesame Street since, nor have I had the rest of the dream. TLDR. The gang from Sesame Street went ham on my insides. Well, that's a very vivid Sesame Street dream, and not a good one. It's pretty wild, and in some ways it's almost funny, but I'm sure it was not funny to you. Oh god. Alright. Let me preface this by stating I was not on drugs of any kind, not so much as an ibuprofen. So, other than my brain being a terrifying place, there's no explanation for this mess. In my dream, I'm in a movie theater, having gone to see a movie by myself. Midway through, all the doors slam shut and the lights turn on. A man dressed in all black stands at the front of the theater and announces he has taken us all hostage. This was years before the theater shooting in Colorado, for the record, and that every 5 minutes, one of us will die until his demands are met. To prove he's serious, he immediately kills one person, who happens to be a woman sitting near me. His method, however, isn't a gun. He pressed a button which makes the floor beneath our seats disappear. Beneath that is a pool of boiling acid. The seats are suspended on steel beams over this pool, much like a dunk tank. The seat drops out from beneath this woman. I can't look away as her screaming body dissolves in the acid before my eyes. People are screaming. One man tries to rush the terrorist, but gets pushed into the acid. Some people try to escape, only to fall in. Me, I start climbing over the seats, trying to make for the exit. The door is of course locked, but there is a vent near the floor that I managed to pry open and escape through. Then I woke up, and never effing wanted to sleep again. I hate you, brain. I hate you the most. TLDR. Terrorists locked us in a movie theater and dissolved people in acid. Drugs weren't involved. Oh, There was also the dream in which I accepted my own death. Long story short, car drove off a cliff. At first, I was blind with terror. Then a sense of calm came over me, knowing I could not change what was about to happen. So I closed my eyes, relaxed, and was thankful for the good in my life, knowing it would be over in seconds, and that any pain would be brief. Then I woke up. The thought of being so calm over my own death freaked me out solidly for weeks. Ended up having to talk to a friend who is a psychologist about it because it was bothering me so much. I don't like to think about that one, even now. It's still unsettling. I had sleep paralysis plus a nightmare. I was spending the night on a friend's couch, and during the middle of the night, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I could feel my body gasping for air, and when I opened my eyes, a woman in all black with a black veil was standing over me. The rest of his living room looked the same, but this woman was there. It almost felt like I was conscious but hallucinating a figure. I couldn't move and was just laying there. My chest was heaving for air, and I could hear my snoring and gurgling from breathing so much. The whole time, this woman was just standing there. I was terrified, as this was the first time I'd ever experienced sleep paralysis. I remember thinking I might die, and this person was doing this to me. I also vaguely remember sitting up at one point during this, but it felt like I was convulsing or something when I did. I was able to move after some time. Overall, a very odd and unsettling experience. When I was younger and lived in Morocco, expat, this kid I never liked was my neighbor. I got out of my bed and everything was gloomy and greenish. Walked into my sister's room and she opened a drawer. The kid's head came out and it started chewing off his own skin. I then ran to the bathroom and his head came out of the toilet and he started laughing with roaches and flies coming out of his mouth. Terrified, I ran to my parents' room and they were packing. They kept on ignoring me. Next thing I know, my whole family is lined up on top of the stairs with a suitcase and walk down, leaving me behind, and I get covered in bugs. That was 14 years ago, and it still freaks me out.